My palms steamed against the black lacquer of the studio floor, breaths coming in sharp and panicked. Silence pressed in on me from all directions, and each judge's eyes lifted as I crumpled at the end of my routine, shoulders heaving, too overwhelmed for tears. The music had stopped too soon. My last spin faltered, balance shot by the low, bruising words I remembered from the family breakfast just that morning. You embarrass yourself every time you dance, Mincio. Give it up before they start laughing. Now the entire jury did laugh quietly, but it rippled out, a warmthless hum. The head judge, Mrs. Han, looked over the frames of her glasses, lips pursed. Are you finished, Miss Jin? She asked, not unkind but categorically unimpressed. I stood, palms stinging. Sweat slicked my spine, my leotard clinging to every sharp angle. My class watched from the wings, some covering their mouths, others wide-eyed, pity or triumph I couldn't tell. I nodded sharply, unable to force my voice past the knot in my throat. You prepared that contemporary piece, Mrs. Han continued, her gaze fixed on my shoes, ruined tights, shredded nerves. I managed a nod. Choreography by yourself. Yes, ma'am. She sighed, passing my score sheet down the line without further comment. Professor Lee, who had shown a flicker of interest earlier, only scribbled something quickly across his notepad. Next. I walked off, blinking hard. If I cried, it would chase me forever, just another Jin family tragedy to whisper about at neighborhood markets. Afterward, I sat alone on the outer steps of the studio, glancing up at the greasy Seoul sky, feeling the city close around my defeat, buzzing scooters, pigeons scraping across the sidewalk, laughter from somewhere I couldn't see. My phone trembled with texts, most of them from my mother. Did you do better than last time? We told you, think about a real job. You will regret this. I read and reread the last message, hands shaking. In a rage, I typed a reply, let me fail on my own. I didn't send it. Instead, I threw my bag over one shoulder, walked home through alleys scented with dried fish and spilled gasoline, and closed myself in my tiny room above our family restaurant. I stared into the mirror, jaw set against the hot, foolish tears that finally came when I was alone. My family has owned this restaurant since before the first skyscrapers towered over Jongno, a living relic of the neighborhood. My parents always said hard work was eating what you made, even if it tasted bitter. They had been young once too, I supposed, and their own dreams, secret and private, possibly beautiful, must have washed out in soy sauce and kitchen steam. My father kept his old guitar cased and silent behind the bar, never played for us, only for himself on rare, lonely nights. But dance to them was another word for drifting. All show, no substance, and nothing to fill a hungry stomach. The walls around me were thin and painted with disappointment, patched from every time I burst through them with another wild idea. The week after the recital disaster, my mother announced her version of mercy. If you want to act like this is your job, you can stop working lunch hours, she said, not looking up from her chopping. Just don't expect support. I took the hours. I clung to every bit of money my side gigs brought, classes in dingy basements, odd choreography temp work with wedding planners, handing out flyers in Gangnam for new gyms. If there was a rumor of an audition anywhere in Seoul, I would be there, first in line, always last called back. The neighborhood's verdict was swift and merciless. The women crowding around for morning coffee in our restaurant grew bolder. You clean up nicely, Mincio. If you're looking for an office job, I heard Hana Bank is hiring. She went to art school but now dancing. Her poor mothers. My friends, at least the ones I'd grown up with, never stopped by anymore. Even my younger brother Jun started crossing the street if he saw me coming. After 6 months, pride depleted, savings gone, I was left with a choice: drag myself to some mindless corporate desk or keep bruising myself for scraps of small miracles. It raged inside me, resentment, fear, and something stubborn that refused to let go. I swallowed my humiliation and started training harder, staying out until midnight to practice in marble-floored lobbies when no one was watching. I watched myself in mirrored windows, adjusting every movement until it looked effortless. My lucky break came, ironically, because I was almost too tired to care. A former teacher suggested an audition for a backup dance crew working with an indie pop singer. It paid scraps, offered only credit and rehearsal space, but I showed up. My kicks and turns were sharper now, anger finally repurposed as precision. After the audition, Seung-yi, the crew leader, tapped me on the shoulder as I packed my bag. There's something about the way you use your neck, he said, tilting his own. It's angry, are you always like this? I flushed, but he grinned. We need that. There were 7 of us training in a parking garage outside Itiwan until our muscles cramped and blisters peeled away. For every gig we landed, a small club show, a late-night festival, we got 10 rejections, not the right look, or we want something sexier. My parents never asked how it was going, they just asked when it would finally be enough. Months blurred into years. I taught dance to bored kids in the afternoons, made ramen stretch 4 meals. I wasn't special, I just refused to stop showing up. When Jiu Park, a rising idol, asked our crew for an original choreography, I spent days locked in a studio with Seungyi, mapping every beat on the walls with sticky notes. I reimagined the music, thought in muscle and bone, remembered every sneer from home and poured it all in. When Jiu's video went viral, the world tilted under my feet. Within a month we were fielding calls. Our crew's name fluttered onto television graphics, companies calling for workshops, festivals, competitions. The anger that had poisoned me burned down into fuel, tight, controlled, and focused on the work. I built myself outward layer by careful layer. I started choreographing for more groups, first small, then big. There were interviews, cameras, and I learned to perform for them too, always careful, measured, not letting my voice shake. Lines of envy and admiration streaked my DMs. People who wouldn't give me a ride home from dance class 2 years ago now sent long, congratulatory messages. 2 years later, I flew to Paris for a festival, teaching classes at studios whose names I'd scribbled into my diary as a teenager. My own style, a heavy, spring-coiled hybrid of anger and grace, started rippling out, copied in infinite little clips online. I missed home sometimes. Even rage has a nostalgia. My mother wrote only when Jun finally sent her a Korean newspaper clipping I was featured in. "We are proud of you," she said, barely more than 3 words. And then, "Can you come home soon?" I landed in Seoul in the thick of summer, the air viscous and alive. The taxi from Incheon wound through the neighborhoods I used to walk, gleaming nerve ends of the city I once thought would swallow me. I stepped out in front of our restaurant, the sign crooked, paint peeling, but the smell of garlic and chili bubbling through the open windows. Inside, nothing had changed. My father behind the register, my mother frying dumplings, a few customers bent over newspapers, nodding at the TV in the corner. Jun glanced up from his phone and almost dropped it. "You're back," he said, louder than he meant. My mother wiped her hands on her apron. She did not hug me. She did not call attention to the single photograph of me and my dance crew tucked behind a stack of menus near the sink, but I saw it. Quiet pride, her own language. My father smiled, not saying much, but his eyes glimmered like the old days. News moves differently here, trickling into people's lives like steam through the windows. By the end of the week, word had spread. Young parents asked if I'd teach their kids. The ajumas from the morning crowd gave measured congratulations, stitched through with disbelief. "You still spinning around, Mincio? Saw you on the TV, thought it was someone else. Your poor mother, she worried so much." I had learned restraint. Fame in Seoul is a mirror that flatters and mocks. People only see what they want, so I smiled. I agreed to teach a free workshop at the elementary school gym just for 1 weekend. It was Jun, restless curiosity giving way to sibling pride, who leaned over one evening and asked, "Will you show them? For real, I mean, a real performance." I nodded, heart hammering, fear and anger braided together again, but softer now, more weapon than wound. The gym was a battered old space, wooden floors gleaming under sweating summer light. Parents filled the folding chairs, some arms crossed, some fiddling with their phones. Former classmates perched at the back, too cool to sit in front, whispering as they stole glances at the stage. I started with the kids, elementary students ducking their heads, waiting for permission to be silly. We did stretches, silly animal walks, basic moves, and then stepped back so they could try combinations. The parents half watched, ready to laugh if anything went wrong. Then a hush dropped. My brother, nervous but grinning, called out, "My sister's going to show you something special." I tried to breathe, feeling the old ache rise up again, the whisper of a dozen rejections in one sharp, familiar chorus. I stepped onto the floor, bare feet cold against the polished wood, and let the music start. The track wasn't sweet. It was heavy, sharp, every beat a memory. The first time I fell, the phone calls I never answered, the judge's laughter, my mother's tired voice at midnight, the endless hours under flickering fluorescent lights. I let my anger leak into every kick and turn, each movement carved tight and true, nothing held back. The speed built, sweat stinging my eyes, but I stayed in it. At the crescendo, I hit the final leap, landing hard and exact, cut stillness radiating through the gym. For a moment nothing, no applause, no laughter, then someone exhaled sharply like waking from a dream. The room burst open with clapping chatter rising up. The kids jumped up and down. Some of the parents stood, uncertain, glancing at each other as if to confirm that they'd seen the same thing. The older women, stony-faced as ever, looked reluctantly awed. A man I recognized from my father's football club stood and asked, "Did she really make the choreography in those videos?" "The big star last spring." My mother answered for me soft but firm, "Yes, everything you saw she did on her own." Suddenly all the stories flipped. People asked for selfies, advice, a few quietly confessed that their own children wanted to learn to dance. Nobody laughed, some struggled to meet my eyes. I walked off the stage, muscles shaking but lighter somehow. Jun enveloped me in a brief, rough hug. "You were always stubborn," he whispered, voice choked. "But you were right." That night I ate dinner with my family, laughter mixing with old grievances. My mother dished extra rice into my bowl, her fingers lingering on mine. My father, uncharacteristically emotional, asked me about Paris, about my favorite dancers, about dance shoes. Later, up in my childhood room, I leaned out the window and watched the city shift and settle. The air was thick, but the heaviness was gone. Rage had sharpened me, made me precise, but coming home, at long last, let me soften again. The next day, my mother stacked new menus with my name beneath the restaurants. Jin Family Kitchen, home of Chef Jin and choreographer Jin. It wasn't much, but it was everything. I returned to Seoul's stages and studios, traveling farther, teaching more, but always circling back here, where the old scars had once closed tight around me. I wasn't forgiven exactly, I didn't expect to be, but when my old community watched me move, the proof electrifying and real, the laughter finally faded. I had come home with my whole self intact, my own story folded into the cities, impossible now to deny or erase.